everybody. Okay, so we have a couple minutes till we're going to get started, but I'm going to put the link to our Peardeck in the chat. And if you want to open a second tab, or if you have a second device available, go ahead and open this link. So I'll put the link in the chat, and then I'll also give you the join code if you happen to be using a second device. But you're going to join our Peardeck, and then once you've joined, you'll see instructions on the very first slide, and you have a bit of an activity, an icebreaker activity to do. And we'll go ahead and get started in just a couple minutes.
Okay, listen, she's going to put in the chat, okay, right here, she's going to put the...
All right, we are going to go ahead and get started. Good evening, everybody, and welcome. If your computer looks anything like my cell phone did, you just got a message that said that we've locked this slide, and we have. So you're not able to continue drawing. I just learned that feature today. I'm kind of excited about it, and so I'll show you how to do that a little bit later. But we're going to go ahead and move on for a few minutes, and then we'll come back to this slide and take a look at some of the things that you had to share. But for now, if you would shift over to our Zoom call, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I would love for you to follow along on my screen for right now instead of our Peardeck. Just because I'm going to end up showing you some features that I can see from my side. With that, we'll go ahead and get started. So again, good evening and welcome. This is our October Peardeck PD Social, and I'm super excited to be here with you tonight. My name is McKenzie Fuller. I'm the technology coach for the Ontario School District, and I think I've met everybody at least between last week and this week. But just for a little bit of context, in case you weren't aware, this is a series of socials hosted by the Eastern Oregon Wren. The whole purpose is that it's an opportunity available to educators in our region during the month of October on Thursdays to learn strategies to engage students and families using Peardeck, and then to collaborate with each other and to share ideas and successes and resources. And so that's really why we're here tonight, is sort of the overarching purpose of our session. Just so that you're aware, if you hadn't heard this yet, the first 3 teachers who signed up and attend all 4 sessions from each eligible county receive a 1-year paid subscription to Peardeck, which is about $150 value. Super exciting, and if you're here tonight, it means you're still in the running for that free 1-year subscription, which could be incredibly powerful this year, especially for those of us in distance learning, but really for all of us as we're navigating instruction and students. A couple of logistics to be aware of. Our session tonight will go from 7 o'clock to 8:30. You'll get a chance to look at both the teacher and the student platform. We're going to jump back and forth between tabs quite a bit tonight, like I just asked you to. because I want you to be able to see what this looks like from the teacher side, which is what you're looking at now if you're following along via Zoom. But I also want you to be able to try this out on occasion from the student side. And so occasionally I'll ask you to switch back over to your Peardeck tab or the device that you're using that has our Peardeck presentation open. I'm going to do a lot of modeling for you tonight to show you how things work on the teacher side, and sometimes you'll actually get a chance to see the teacher and the student platform side by side to be able to compare the two. But you're also going to get a lot of time to practice and explore and experiment, and so I just would encourage you to take advantage of that. If you would like a copy of tonight's slide deck, the URL is at the bottom of this slide. I'll show it again at the end of our session, but it's bit.ly/pdsocial2, all lowercase. Again, that's bit.ly/pdsocial2. And again, I'll show that at the end of our session together. A couple of tips for success for our session tonight. The first is just that I ask that you mute your microphone unless you're intentionally trying to say something to the group, just because we end up with so much background noise if everybody comes off mute at the same time. The second encouragement that I have for you is just to choose to fully engage tonight. We have a neat opportunity to come together and to participate in a session that my hope is very interactive and gives you a chance to get some hands-on experience and also some opportunities to collaborate. And so I would just encourage you to take full advantage of that. I'm super bad at multitasking, and so I understand if you end up doing that. That being said, I also know you have families that also need your attention at home. And so if you have to step away, then that's completely fine as well. If you have questions, you're welcome to use the chat feature to ask these. Mary Jane is going to moderate the chat for us, and she'll let me know if I miss a question, that sort of thing. I just would say avoid sending me private messages, because I'm the only one that sees those, and I can't actually see the chat while I'm sharing my screen. And so it's really hard for me to keep an eye on that, and I do tend to miss private messages. So if you need to send a private message, I would send it to Mary Jane, and then she'll find a lull in the conversation to figure out how to approach that correctly. My next suggestion for you is that if you want to see the student and the teacher view at the same time, side by side, to use a second device, you can access Peardeck presentations from a cell phone, any device that has internet access. And so if you happen to have two devices close by, that might be the easiest to be able to see both. That being said, if you need to jump back and forth between tabs, again, that's totally fine. And then if you find that your internet is struggling, it is completely acceptable to turn your camera off. I love getting to see faces and see who I'm talking with, but I understand that we are limited to the technology and to the internet connections that we have right now. So with that, we are going to go ahead and get started. And the first thing that I want to do is take a look at those pictures that you drew for me. And so in just a minute, I'm going to share on my screen some of the pictures, some of the drawings from those of you who gave me permission to share these. And it's going to take me just a second to pull them up. Oh, and I'm going to jump us in our slides. Whoops. I'm still getting the hang of this. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and show you from the teacher dashboard what this looks like. So when I toggled back to look at some of your responses, it brought our whole presentation back to this first slide, which is totally fine. So this is what students see. This is the student view. You can see from my teacher dashboard, I'm on slide 1 of 34. I have responses from 5 of 8 students. And right now, screens are locked. If I wanted to unlock them, I'd click unlock screens. I can choose to insert a new question prompt, or right now from the teacher platform, I can choose to show your responses. And so I'm just going to show a couple of these. These were responses where people had drawn stars on their slide to give me permission to share, and that said they would be willing to tell about their pictures. And so this is the first picture, and if the artist behind this picture would be willing to come off mute and just tell us a little bit about this, their challenge and their highlight from this week, that would be awesome.
Okay, I'm really proud of you that you can even tell that's a star, but good for you, McKenzie. This is Lorena. And I labeled mine C for challenge and H for highlight. And my challenge really goes clear back to the beginning of COVID because I now have my entire family home since March and I have more laundry to do. That's the first one. More meals to make. That's the second one. And more dirty dishes to deal with. That's the third one. So, yeah, I'm dealing with that challenge. And my highlight was today in the classroom where I was subbing. I've been observing the classroom for a few days to kind of get an idea of what my goal, what my challenge was for being in the classroom and how to handle it. And I had this little boy that had been struggling with staying in his seat and staying focused on the lesson over this past week. And today, oh my goodness, he was the model student sitting at, I literally thought multiple times he was frozen on the screen and I had to look to see his eyes blinking because he was so focused. I was so proud of him. So that was the highlight of my day.
That's awesome, Lorena. Thanks so much for sharing that. So here's the next one. Does the artist want to come off mute and tell us a little bit about it?
Okay, that one's mine, Janine. It's kind of hard to tell. It's kind of abstract. The first one is last week we had to put together packets to send home, and that took a lot of extra work and put me behind. But the positive thing was, as of today, I got all of my, and that's supposed to represent the seesaw logo on the other half. I got all my seesaw assignments done for next week. Never mind, next week's only 3-day week. I'm finally caught up.
Janine, that is awesome. And that's totally worth celebrating. Good for you. So mine is the last one, and mine is pretty lousy because I got ambitious and decided with 1 minute left that I would do it on my phone. And I had to erase like 5 times because the square on my phone is only about that big. So that is my picture. And my story here is my challenge that turned into my highlight. So Monday I got a little bit ambitious with leftovers and maybe ate them way too late after they had expired. And so I woke up very sick on Tuesday morning and did not feel well at all. But the upside of that is it went away by Tuesday night, and I am feeling great and much more thankful for good health. So that's my highlight of my week. But, is there anybody else that wanted to share theirs that didn't get the opportunity to? All right, that is totally fine. I want to take just a second and show you. Actually, we're going to wait a little bit. I'm not going to show you this other feature. So again, right now you're looking at the projector view in Peardeck. So for those of you that have never seen this before, the projector view is essentially if we were teaching students in person, it's what you would put up on your projector, right? So it's student responses that stay anonymous. They don't have names attached to them, but it's the responses that you choose to project for your students. And so these only go on the projector view. They don't get sent out to students. If we hide these responses, then we see exactly what students are looking at, which is our slide deck. So with that, I'm going to jump us down to a couple of questions. We'll go ahead and get started, but if you would navigate back over to the student platform, so you're going to open that Peardeck presentation again, that tab. We're going to get really good at jumping back and forth in this, or pick up that second device. Your screen should look similar to mine, and you may not be able to see our Zoom call right now, but you should be able to hear my voice. If you could just give me a thumbs up if your screen looks like mine, that would be awesome. Okay, perfect. And if you are having a hard time accessing our Peardeck, Mary Jane has all of the information in the chat. She's got the link and then also the join code, so you can join either way. But the reason that I'm having you switch over to the Peardeck platform is because I'm going to display a couple of interactive slides in just a second to put you back in the shoes of a student, but also to give me the opportunity to collect some information from you. Because I would love to just check in and see how things are going. And if you are stuck or this is too overwhelming and you would prefer to just watch this in Zoom tonight, that's totally okay too. But I'm going to jump us to this slide, and it might take yours a second to load. Sometimes internet connections are tricky, but you should see a green thumbs up and an orange thumbs down, and then a little symbol that you can drag to one or the other. And the question here is, have you used Peardeck in the last week? Yes or no? I'm going to go ahead and click show responses on my end because I would love to see. Okay, so we're about half and half. We have looks like 7 total. We've got 4 that have used Peardeck this week and 3 who have not. That's great. Thanks for being honest on that one. If you have not used Peardeck in the last week, that's totally okay. This is not intended to make you feel guilty or make you feel bad about that at all. But I do want to hear from the people who have used Peardeck in the last week and just ask, how have you been using Peardeck? So if you would take just a minute and write for me in the chat a quick note, I would love to hear how this is working. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and show responses. And if you're still typing, you're not going to lose the opportunity to continue typing. But if you are finished and you'd like to see maybe how others are using or others have been using Peardeck this week, you're welcome to toggle back over to our Zoom window or a Zoom tab just so that you can see how others have responded. So we're using an algebra to make it more interactive for kids and for formative assessment, experimenting at home. Awesome, I love that. Using it as a slideshow. Physical science to present notes as fill-in notes. They listen and fill in the blanks. That's awesome. Math, getting students to show their work in translations on the slides. I love the variety and applications. Haven't used it yet, but want to. A little bit scared, and that is totally okay. Thanks for being honest. Introducing students to each other in an online class, interaction, and we're excited to try it again. Again, thank you so much for being honest. I really appreciate it. So I'm going to go ahead and hide responses and jump to the next slide again. So if you have our Zoom window open, you're going to want to jump back over to the Peardeck one more time. Actually, I was thinking I still had another slide in there. I do not. So you are welcome to follow along via Zoom or Peardeck for a little bit. It does not matter a whole lot for the next couple of minutes. You'll be able to see the slides either way. But really quickly, I just want to review a couple of things that we talked about last week. So last week we talked about how there are 3 main components with Peardeck. There's a website, there's the add-on for Google Slides, and then there's the Power Up extension. The website is peardeck.com. You can create an account here. Last week I suggested creating it using a Google account. I know our district has Google accounts for all of the teachers. And the advantage to this is that it connects with your Google Drive. and that just makes the process a little bit more efficient and more seamless. You're not trying to share presentations between accounts. And so again, if you have the opportunity to connect to a district Google account, I would encourage you to do that. From the website, you can launch presentations. You can access all of your session data. We'll look at how that works tonight. And then you can access some supplemental resources that Peardeck has to offer. We're going to work primarily out of the Google Slides add-on though, which is a window that pops up to the side of a Google Slides presentation. Within this add-on, you can design presentations, you can launch your presentations, and then you can also access templates in the template library. Last but not least, but also kind of the least out of the group of three, is the Power Up extension. You definitely don't have to have this, but if you have that extension installed, that allows you to play videos and animations and GIFs from that you have embedded in your Google Slides. So if you're somebody that likes to use any of those things in Peardeck, I would encourage you to look at the Power Up extension, because that's going to make that a little bit smoother. But if you're not using any of those things, you don't need the extension and you won't even notice the difference. So those are the three main components that we talked about last week. And then just a couple of basic pieces of information. When you have a slide open within Google Slides, or when you have a slide deck open, to access the Peardeck add-on or the Peardeck window, you open the Peardeck add-on. So you click on add-ons and then you choose Peardeck from the list of options. That opens the window to the right. And then you can click on any of these 6 bubbles to insert an interactive feature. And when you click on these, the interactive features will be added to whatever slide you have selected. And so you can kind of see it in my picture here. Slide 14 is the one that's highlighted. That's the one that I had selected. And had I clicked on any of these bubbles, it would have put that interactive feature on top of that slide for me. Pretty simple. Now, within that bank of interactive slide options, we have some free options and some premium options, or some paid options. The text responses, the multiple choice, the numbers, and the website link, these are all free options. You don't have to pay for them ever. The premium options are the drawing slides and the draggable slides. So just be aware there is a difference, and you are welcome to activate your free trial of Peardeck during our time together. I think it's a 60-day trial right now. But just know that when you run out of that trial, if you don't have premium purchased for you, then you will be left with just those free options. When you're ready to launch your presentation, we use this green button that says Start Lesson within that Peardeck window. We want to make sure that we use this button and not the Present button up here, because if we use the Present button in Google Slides, it's not going to read any of our interactive features as actually being interactive. Students won't be able to do anything with them. In order to launch this interactively from Peardeck, we have to open their add-on window, and then we have to click that green button that says Start Lesson. Typically, if you're having trouble getting your presentation to your students, this is the first place to check, is just making sure that this is where we launched our lesson. Before I move on, are there any questions? You're welcome to come off mute to ask these, but any things that came up this week or any questions that you have?
I had a question about the Power Up.
Yeah, go for it.
So I've put that add-on on there, right?
Okay.
I clicked on it. I added that to it. And when I put a video, like the link into my slides, is it supposed to play within my slide or just open a new window?
Oh, so like a link to a video?
Yeah, so I put the link to like the YouTube experiment, or a presentation that somebody has on YouTube, for physical science. And when I click on that link, it just opens the video in a new slide.
Okay.
And so I have to go ahead and show my screen, and it doesn't open it up, or it opens it in a new tab. And so it doesn't open it up in the window that the Peardeck's on, so I have to share my screen every time. Is it supposed to work that way?
Got it. That's a great question. Okay, so if you put the link, like if you just have the text link on your slide and
Right.
you click on that or students click on that, it is going to take them to a new window. So I'm going to jump over to the slide deck. If you insert a video from like YouTube, that should play right there within the middle of your slide.
So what'd you click on?
So insert and then video,
Okay.
and you can pull one from YouTube. The
And then
other option, I'll show you.
Do you insert the link right there?
You can put, yeah, you can put the URL right there.
Okay. All right.
The other option I'll show you tonight, not with the video, but it'll be the same thing. If you insert a website interactive feature, you'll put the URL there, and then it will actually open it up next to your Peardeck slide. So students will see the Peardeck slide, and then instead of seeing an area for them to respond, they'll see your video and they can play it at their own pace.
Okay.
So yeah, great question. We'll take a little bit of time later to experiment, and if you want to try that out and then we can troubleshoot as needed, let me know.
Okay. Yeah, and then the other thing I found out was that when I insert a link, like into my Google Slides, that I'm going to click on, it's not active unless I hit enter afterward.
Right. Yep. I've learned that one too.
I was just inserting them and then going on to the next thing without hitting enter after, and it was not active when I clicked on it.
Yeah. I don't know what to tell you on that one. I'm not sure why that's the way that it is, but I do that in emails all the time. I forget to hit enter afterwards and it doesn't link. So, any other questions?
I have a couple questions. Are
Okay.
you able to remove inactive participants?
That's a great question. I honestly don't know that I know the answer to that.
The reason I ask is because I had a student who left the session and I kept forgetting, so I kept waiting for that last response.
Got it.
And I didn't know if there's just a way to remove them, and I couldn't find anything, but.
So it looks like, I'm gonna pull this over just one second. So we'll look at this in just a second. Can you see my second window that's got like my slide sorter on the left and then one big slide?
Yeah.
This is the teacher dashboard, and it's a premium feature, but you can preview this as part of the pilot. But up here in the top right corner, you can open your roster.
Mm-hmm.
And then it looks like we can block them from the session, which would take them out.
Okay. I don't remember seeing that. Okay. I guess with that said, since you have all those slides pulled up, can you edit slides as they're working?
Can you edit slides as they're working? I don't think so. I think my understanding is that when you launch it, it's launching a static presentation. Any changes have to be made. Sorry, I've got this pop-up window right now that's driving me crazy. Any changes have to be made by just adding a new prompt. And that's just if you want to add a new question.
Oh, okay.
Does that answer your question, Jody?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
And last one.
Oh, go for it.
Can I add someone to see the teacher view? I have a helper in the class, and she's logging in as a student, so she's kind of skewing my data. I'm wondering if I could set her up with the teacher view.
Got it. If you have the teacher dashboard, you can send the link to her and she could open it from a different device.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Those are awesome questions. Any others? Janine, I saw your hand raised at one point.
My question, and maybe you answered it at the training I missed. what's an easy way for students to access the Peardeck? Because like we have to go to the website, we have to enter a code. Is there a really fast way for younger students to access it?
Yes. So I've got my Peardeck open. I'm going to open the join window, which opens automatically when you launch a presentation. And Janine, you can either invite your class, and this will post a link in your Google Classroom, or you can just give students a link. If you click on give students a link, it copies to the clipboard, and then you can paste this in your Google Meet. You could paste this within Seesaw. You could paste it in Google Classroom. But then they just click the link and they go straight to your presentation. They don't have to enter the code.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Great question. Any others? Okay, we'll go ahead and keep moving, but seriously, this time is yours. And so if you have more questions, please feel free to pause me and I will do the best that I can to answer those. All right, so tonight we're going to take a look at some presentation features and then a couple of creative options. Within the presentation features category, we'll walk through the teacher dashboard. We've done that a little bit already. We'll talk about teacher feedback and student takeaways. I'll also show you how to put a timer on your slides. Again, new feature I learned today that I'm super excited to share. And then some of the creative options. So we'll take a look at the template library and then some lesson examples. So starting with the teacher dashboard and feedback, and this is where you're going to want to watch this from our Zoom session where I'm sharing my screen because I want to be able to show you what I see, and that's not something that I can cast to you from the Peardeck presentation. And so again, you're looking right now at the projector view, but in just a second, I'm going to pull over my teacher dashboard. And again, this is the window that I was telling Jody it's a premium feature. And so you do have to pay to get access to the teacher dashboard or start your free trial. The idea with the teacher dashboard is that this becomes kind of your clipboard, right? This is the thing that you're looking at in class that nobody else gets to see. You're not going to put this up on the screen for students. The big reason for that is because their names are attached to all of their submissions. And so what Peardeck has suggested when we've been in person in the past is that you actually pull this up on a cell phone or a tablet or some sort of a device that you're carrying with you in your classroom, because this is going to let you screen your student submissions and decide what gets projected for the class to see. With the free version, you really are kind of flying blind, which works in some cases, and with some groups of kids it is way too terrifying to even tackle because you don't know what's going to show up on your screen ahead of time. But I'm going to jump us back really quickly to one of those slides that I showed earlier. And that was just the how have you used Peardeck this week? So as you can see from my screen, I can see all of the responses from my students, but I can also see the student that they came from. So I can see names attached. And I've got some extra options here that I honestly am just starting to learn how to use. We just bought Peardeck Premium for our district, and so these features are pretty new to me too. But I have a couple of neat options here. The first thing that I can do with responses from students is I can star these. And as soon as I start putting stars next to answers, these become the only answers that are displayed once I hit that Show Responses button. So I can go through and just handpick a couple of responses, which is what I did with our drawing project from the beginning. I just went through and put stars on all of the slides that had the star drawn on them, so that I don't even have to worry about anybody else's popping up on the screen. So I can star these to show them to students, or I can click the star again to deselect them. The next option is to leave feedback, which means I'm sending a private message to a student giving them feedback on something that they submitted. And so if I wanted to send a quick message to Jody, I could click leave feedback. I can leave her a note. I can send the feedback, and then she's going to get a little bubble in the bottom right corner of her screen that shows her that she has a message for me, and she'll be able to see my message. I can also just continue to add more feedback to her slide, but I'm able to private message students. The other option here is found in this little snowman to the right of the student post, and that's the option to hide response. And so if you're planning to scroll through all of your student responses, but there's one and you're going, yeah, that's not going up on my screen, all you have to do is click hide response, and then the students can't see it and you lose your option to star that response. But I can go back and show the response if I need to as well. So the teacher dashboard really does give you a little bit more protection as you're starting to display work for students. Not something that you have to be able to use it in class, but definitely makes us feel a little bit better when especially when we're standing up in front of students in person. So that is our teacher dashboard. And I'm going to jump us quickly back to the slide that we left off on. And we're going to talk about student takeaways next. But with student takeaways, I'm going to actually show you a video so that you can see what these look like. We'll go ahead and watch this from my shared screen, although I do need to stop and reshare because I forgot to share my audio. All right, here we go. Again, these are student takeaways. Oh, that's interesting. So Brad, I was under the impression, I'm gonna pause this for just a second. This was gonna play in my slide, but now that I'm thinking about this, I don't have the power up installed on my computer, which is why I opened it in a new tab. So note to self, we need the power up to be able to play the video within the slide.
After students have left all these insightful answers, you probably want to give them a record of their work to review later. That's what Peardeck student takeaways are for. First, make sure to end your session and name it. Consider including the class name, section, and date for easy categorization. Make sure to check the box that says Publish Student Takeaways. When you publish student takeaways, you'll get a link to a brand new folder in Google Drive. Inside that folder will be a personal document for each student who joined the session. The documents have already been shared with the appropriate student, and an email has been sent to them. You can also paste the link in your LMS. When a student clicks the link, it will take them directly to their personal document. For homework, you can tell students to review their takeaway and reflect on what was challenging or what they learned in the spaces provided. Anytime you want to find your takeaways, you can look in your Drive for your takeaways folder. The takeaways are always grouped by presentation and date. You can leave student feedback by leaving a comment in the doc. You can also share the doc with parents or tutors to help them better guide the student outside of class.
So super fast overview, but basically the idea is that you're giving students a copy of your slides so they have all of the content at their disposal. They also have all of their responses. It's automatically sent to their email. It's saved into their Google Drive. And then if you choose to go back through individual student responses and leave them feedback right there within the Google Doc that it generates, you have the freedom to do that. So again, just another way to provide support to students, and that's the student takeaways. I will go ahead and publish student takeaways after our session tonight, so you'll get an email in whatever email address you use to join our Peardeck, and then you'll also see a folder in your Google Drive with Peardeck takeaways, and so you'll get a chance to go through and look at those for yourself as well. But it's an option, not something that you absolutely have to do. I know I've heard from some of the teachers in our districts that they love this idea of takeaways because students automatically have copies of all of their slide decks. But I've also heard from other teachers that they don't like having 100, I think one of the teachers said 113 new Google Docs in their shared with me drive every single day after a math lesson, because they have 113 students that they're teaching using Peardeck, and they get shared a Google Doc for every single one of those students every single day. And so they've chosen not to use takeaways. One option that you have, if you want to look at student data and you don't want to have a separate Google Doc for every single student, you can access a single document summary. I'm going to go ahead and walk you through these instructions in the slide, and then I'll model the process with you or for you. But the idea to see a summary of your students' responses to your presentation at the end without going back through your teacher dashboard is to visit peardeck.com, log in using your teacher account. You'll click on the Sessions tab, and then there will be a little snowman to the right of the session title. You'll click the snowman, and then you'll click the button that says Export to Spreadsheet. And that's going to generate a Google Sheet that has all of the information that your students have submitted in a single place. So here's what that looks like. We'll go ahead and pull up our spreadsheet from last week. So I'm going to peardeck.com. I'm logging in as a teacher. I'm clicking on the Sessions tab. And then you can see under my sessions, I've got two tabs. I've got active sessions and archived sessions. Archived sessions are anything that's older than 30 days or anything that I've manually archived. And you can see I have lots and lots of active sessions right now. But if I look at this one, I did not name correctly last week. I named it social number 2. If I click the snowman to the right of last week's session and then click export to spreadsheet, it does take a minute because it's a lot of data, but it's going to generate a spreadsheet with all of the responses that you submitted. We'll give it just a second so that I can at a glance go through and analyze responses from students. And so it does get a little bit messy. There's a lot more information here that I need than what I need, but I do have this. So what we have are the names of each individual student, the email address that was entered, and then responses that they submitted. So here in column D, we have slide 1, and what I had asked you to do last week when we met was just to insert your name. I had said, who's joining us tonight? People wrote their names. I can see everybody's names. I can also just see blank spaces where someone didn't respond to the question. I can see what we chose for the districts that are represented. And then the drawing slides get a little bit messy, and the draggable slides get really messy. And so you're going to see some messy data here that probably isn't going to mean a whole lot. It'll leave a note for a drawing slide. And then this is where it gets a little tricky. I have to start to remember based off of student responses, or I have to go back and compare this with my slide deck. But it doesn't label my slides. And so I can go back and figure out what question I asked on slide 7, but it doesn't put that question within my slide deck. And so I have to think through this and go, okay, I think this one was the one where I asked, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how was your week? And these were the responses. But the thing that I love is that I can see the short answer responses. And typically this is what I'm going for. I don't need every single piece of data from a presentation. Usually I have 1 or 2 slides that I'm specifically looking for to see where my students ended the session. And so I can format my Google Sheet and I can see all of my student responses. Again, the draggable slides and the drawing slides really don't give us a whole lot of information within the Google Sheet, but the numbered slides, the multiple choice, and the text do transfer really, really nicely. So this is just another way to access your data. You can pull up student takeaways, you can export to a spreadsheet, or you can view your teacher dashboard anytime after you've closed a session. But these are the ways that we view that data after the fact. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pause for questions again. Anything that you would like me to clarify or go back and explain? Okay. We'll go ahead and keep moving, but again, stop me if something comes to mind. So we're going to shift gears now to some of the creative features, and I want to take a minute to look at the template library. So I'm just going to show you this, and we'll take a few minutes to explore. But the template library within Peardeck, I'm going to jump out of our presentation session. Our template library can be found within the add-ons window. So we click on add-ons, we open our Peardeck add-on, and it's over here to the right side. That template library is located near the, well, it's kind of near the top of the window, not really. It's above the section where we ask students a question. But if you click on the template library, you have access to lots and lots of free templates that you can add to your lessons. All you have to do is click on them. And so right now I've got slide 1 selected. If I click between slide 1 and 2 and I find some sort of a template that I want to insert, I can click on the template. So we'll click on beginning of the lesson templates. I'll click on one of these templates. It does take it a minute, but it's just going to insert this right into my slide deck. It looks just like this. It's completely editable by you. The only thing that you don't really want to touch is this bar at the bottom that makes this an interactive slide. Otherwise, you can change the directions, you can insert pictures, you can move things around. You have full control over how these interactive slides work. You just get to choose from a library. And so Peardeck has lots of these to offer. They have templates that they suggest using at the beginning of a lesson, during the middle of a lesson, or at the end of a lesson. They also have more content-specific or skill-specific templates. And instead of me walking you through and showing you all of this, we're going to take a little bit of time to explore. So it is 7:52 right now by my clock. We'll come back at 8. If you need to step away and use the restroom, get a drink, or stand up and stretch, that's fine during this time too. But we're going to take the next 8 minutes and I'm just going to let you explore the template library. So go ahead and take some time to do that. You can open Google Slides, click on the add-ons button in the toolbar, open your Peardeck add-on, and then take a look at the template library. And if you've got any questions, feel free to ask them during this time. All right, so we're going to come back together in about 1 minute. This is your 1 minute warning. All right, so it is 8 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and come back together, and I'm going to ask that you open back up our Peardeck presentation. So we're going to do a little bit of responding to some slides and some interacting with some slides in just a minute. So again, go ahead and open our Peardeck presentation, our Peardeck tab. If you need the link again, that should be in the chat. But the question that I have for you as we're transitioning back together is, from that template library, which slide or which slides caught your attention, and then why? I just would love I would love to hear from you. What stood out to you?
Are you looking for a written response or verbal response? Okay.
Oh, Kathy, sorry. Yes. So a written response. Do you have the Peardeck slides open?
I'm not sure. I don't think I have the full the access maybe that some.
Got it. Okay. So do you see the link that Mary Jane put in the slides or in the chat, excuse me?
Yes. And I've
Go
gone
ahead
in.
and, okay. Are you using a cell phone or are you using a computer?
I'm using a computer, but I'm not sure I'm getting, like, I don't have any opportunity to really move around on your site at all if I'm supposed to.
Okay. Do you see, so next to our slide, do you see a little white text box?
Well, when I bring up the chat, but that's it. Oh, a little down on the far left where it says students write your response.
Well, there should have been one that came next to it, but it may not be appearing. Let me see, Kathy, if I can show you what they're seeing on their side. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Oh, it's not copying for some reason. Okay, we'll try this again. Thank you for saying something. So I'm thinking it's not pulling up our Peardeck presentation. So what you should be able to see is the presentation slides, but also there should be a text box for responding. So I'll go ahead and just show you this so that you can see it.
Okay.
Oh, it's not gonna let me open it. Darn.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, we'll try it. We'll try one more option.
Well, anyway, to answer your question, I really liked the deal that was where you could give some responses, and one of them had to do with, excuse me, the assessment and something else, but to me, it really was something that brought in a lot of personal involvement and meaning from a student to select
Okay.
something that I just thought it was great.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
You bet.
Okay. So I am appreciating some of these responses. Thanks so much for sharing these. So I'm going to go ahead and show a couple of these up on the board. In just 1 second. Okay. We'll go ahead and show some responses. So somebody had said, how do you feel about today's lesson? I'm going to go ahead and actually move this to grid layout so we can see several more. Just wanting to know how kids are feeling about teaching. The which one doesn't belong. I love that. The imposter sets, that's great. The interactive slides for the little guys. We've got the interactive clock and the money. That's great. How are we feeling right now? The versatility of having the students involved in their lessons. Yeah, feeling like we have to sing and dance to get their attention, do all of these things to entertain them and to keep them hooked. Having the interactions to the slideshows. Yeah, these are great, different point of view. Drawing a picture of what we learned from today's lesson, and then being able to draw instead of type. Yeah, these are awesome. Thanks so much for sharing these. I love some of these templates, and I'm definitely still kind of getting a handle on what all they have to offer because they're constantly adding to their template library. And so they've got some pretty neat resources there. I'm gonna show you another resource that I am super excited about. This one comes from outside of Peardeck. This comes from Matt Miller. And it's a blog post, but in his blog post, he describes 20 strategies for using Peardeck with students. And the focus shifts from how to use the actual technology to how do we leverage this effectively in the classroom, which is really what we're here for. It's not the technical know-how, it's how do I use this to make a difference in my students and in their understanding of what I'm trying to teach them. And so we're going to take some time tonight to look at some lesson examples. And so you'll get a chance to do some exploring, but here's what we're going to do for the next 15 or so minutes. What you should be seeing on your screen right now is my slide, but then next to it, you should see another window that opens that's got this blog post. If you don't see the blog post, that's totally okay. I'm going to go ahead and put a link in the chat to the blog post. Oh, we'll try this again. See if I can get this to hyperlink. Nope. You may have to copy and paste that link, but you're going to open up this post and scroll about halfway through it. You'll see where he starts to list 20 ways to use Peardeck to engage students. You don't have to read every single way, but my challenge to you tonight is to scan the list, explore any of the links that interest you, because he's going to give a lot of example links. And then here's where you get to get your hands dirty a little bit. You're going to create your own interactive slide decks. You'll use Google Slides and Peardeck. And my challenge is to incorporate 3 to 5 of the strategies from the article and some of the content that you're going to teach in the next week. The idea is that you could take this and use this with students. Now, this might be a little bit much in 15 minutes, so don't panic if you don't get it done. But if you do, I would love for you to share the link to your slide deck in the chat. The idea here being that you're stepping a little bit outside of your norm and trying some different questioning strategies. So I will be here. You're welcome to ask questions. I can help troubleshoot, but this is where we're going to go for, let's go with the next 17 minutes. So we'll come back together at 8:25.
McKenzie, there's a question from Melody.
Oh, Melody, great question. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show you from my slide deck. If you want to jump back over to our Zoom call so you can see the screen share. So my presentation slide looks like this. I just have the instructions, and then you can see I've got an interactive feature at the bottom. But if I want them to show up side by side, I'm going to go to one that doesn't have an interactive feature on it. I'm going to open the Peardeck add-on. And then this time I'm embedding a website. So it's not even really asking a question. It's just adding an extra feature. So I click on that website icon, I paste my URL, and then I click update slide, and that's going to add that second layer. So then instead of seeing a question off to the side, they're going to see my slide and the web page. Great question. I meant to show you that and I forgot. So thanks for bringing it up. Random fun fact, that will work with an Edpuzzle video, that will work with a Flipgrid activity, and that will work with Google Forms as well. If you insert the link for a Google form, it'll pull up right next to your slide deck. You could use it as an exit ticket if you wanted. We're going to come back together. I know that was not a ton of time to get to look through some neat resources and create an interactive slide deck. And so that is totally okay. If you did have one that you created, you want to share, go ahead and stick it in the chat. But I'm going to show you another opportunity that you'll have to share a slide deck that you've created. I'm going to go ahead and transition us via the Peardeck presentation forward just a little bit, and we'll hit on questions right at the end. But before we do that, I just want to take 60 seconds and do a brain dump. That's one of the suggestions that was in this article that I had never thought of doing before, and so we're going to try it tonight. The idea is that you have 60 seconds to write what you've learned tonight, things that have stood out to you, that sort of thing. It doesn't have to be complete sentences. You can go bullet points, whatever you would like to do. But we're going to take 1 minute and just write out what we've learned tonight. If you are looking at our Zoom conversation right now and can see my screen, you'll see that the way you add that timer to your slides is by clicking on the lock screens button and holding it down. And when you click and hold on lock screens, you have the option to insert a 30-second timer, a 1 minute timer, or a 3-minute timer. So I'm going to go ahead and release over 1 minute in just a second. And you'll have 1 minute to just write out whatever it is that you learned tonight that stood out to you. I'm not going to display this for everybody else to see. This is just feedback for me. So here we go. And Kathy, thanks so much for sharing in the chat. You are welcome to write your response there if you'd like.
Thank you. It appears that's the only place I have at this time.
Okay. Much for taking the time to write out what you did share with me. It's been fun to kind of scan through those, and I'm looking forward to reading them at a little bit more slowly as well. So again, thank you so much for sharing tonight. We're going to go ahead and start wrapping up, and then I'll stick around to answer any additional questions that you have. But just as a quick review, tonight we looked at some presentation features, including the teacher dashboard, the opportunity to give teacher feedback through comments and student takeaways. And then we also talked about some creative options, so that template library, and then getting a chance to explore some lesson examples as well. We have another Peardeck Social number 3 coming next week, October 15th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. And the challenge for this meeting is to bring a Peardeck to share. If you have started something tonight and you think I can actually use this with students, or I want to keep working on this, I would encourage you to continue to do that. If you have the opportunity to use it with your students, please do. But whether or not you do that, if you have time in the next week to create a Peardeck and you would be willing to bring it to share with us, we would love to see what you're doing in the classroom. I can share my ideas. I can model how I use Peardeck, but when it comes down to it, you may just learn better from someone else. And so I'd love for you to have the chance to teach your colleagues what you're doing, but also to learn from each other. And so again, I would encourage you to bring a Peardeck to share. And if you want to bring the one that you've been working on tonight, you are absolutely welcome to do that. And if we get to next week and nobody has a Peardeck to share and we'd rather take some time to continue developing a presentation, we can do that as well. Brad, thank you so much for putting your link in the chat. I'm excited to take a look at that. And then if anybody else wants to open it up, you're welcome to do that as well. But with that, I just want to say thank you so much for your time tonight. It's been great getting to spend this last hour and a half with you, and I really appreciate you being willing to give up your evening to explore some of these features with us. If you have questions or would like some additional support, you're welcome to email me. My email address is listed on this slide. And then if you want a copy of the slide deck, you're welcome to access that as well. The URL is at the bottom. So again, I'll stick around to answer any questions, but if you've learned all that you need to tonight, you are welcome to sign out. So thank you so much for coming and have a great evening.
McKenzie, were you going to give us the Peardeck from your end so I can look at it? What is the takeaways?
Yes, I will give you the takeaways.
Because I've sent it to my students before, but then when I click on it and open it up in Google Classroom, it shows me all their responses because it takes me to my end of it. So I can't see what they see from it.
Okay, I'll go ahead and just do that now then.
So I normally share it after I'm done, and I share it to them in materials.
Okay.
So
I'll go ahead and publish the takeaways, and then this should go to your email. And I've heard it takes about 10 minutes to get there.
Oh yeah, because it has to generate it all. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but that should be coming for you. So thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, thanks for doing that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Hey, do you mind when you share your Peardeck with us, do you mind giving us permission to open it? Kelly said we have to have permission to do that.
Oh, do you? Even if I click the sharing one?
I wonder do you have that set to everyone can view?
Yeah, I don't know. What do I have it set to? Beats me.
Okay.
Let's see. So view. So what do I have to have that do for that?
So if you click
So I
that
clicked
share
on
button.
share. I clicked on the share, right?
Perfect. And then down at the bottom it says get link.
Yeah.
What does it say below get link?
Let's see. Get link. Restricted, only people added can open it with this link.
Okay. So go ahead and click change.
Change link
And then,
to this school district.
you want to change it to anyone with the link.
So viewer, I don't know if I can
Let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen and I'll let you share yours. And then we can make sure we're looking at the same thing.
Hold on, let me look here. Oh, anyone with the link, here we go. Okay.
Oh, awesome, okay.
All right, so now I can copy. So let's see if, does this change the link or is it still the same or is it just?
The link should stay the same. Let me see if I can open it now.
Okay.
Oh, yep, I can open it now.
All right.
That worked. Awesome, thanks so much for sending this.
Now, if I've shared it, Does that mean if you do anything, you can change it, or do you need to make a copy so it doesn't get changed?
If you have it set so view only, so I would have to make a copy. It won't change your original.
Right. Well, I don't have it set to view only on purpose, so must be a default.
I appreciate that. Oh, this is awesome. Thanks so much for sharing this.
Yeah, sure. I had it almost done, and so I just added those things to it.
Oh, that's great.
And that video opens up right in it now, because I already had the power up